ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt different, not better, not louder, not more qualified, just set apart, like something in you refuses to blend in even when everything around you begs for your silence? You walk into a room, and without saying a word, the atmosphere shifts. You face battles others never seem to fight yet somehow. You're still standing. Have you ever wondered why? I'm not talking about talent. I'm not talking about fame, influence, or applause. I'm talking about a mark, a divine signature on the soul. And here's the truth. There are signs, hidden signs that only the elect carry. They're not always visible. They're not always celebrated, but they are undeniable to those who walk in the Spirit. And tonight, I'm not just going to tell you what they are, I'm going to challenge you. Because by the end of this message, you won't just be asking, do I know someone like this? You'll be asking, am I one of them? So don't you dare stop listening. The next few minutes could answer questions you've had for years, even questions you've been afraid to speak out loud. There's something quietly profound about the way heaven marks those it calls its own. If you're looking for flashing lights, soaring titles, or outward charisma as proof of divine election, you may miss the very ones God has chosen to carry his glory. The markings of the elect are rarely loud, rarely obvious. In fact, they are most often wrapped in the kind of silence that only the Spirit can interpret. God has never been impressed with surface-level power. Throughout the history of Scripture, his hand has always moved through the least likely, the overlooked, the forgotten. And yet, within those fragile frames lived the most extraordinary manifestations of divine authority. These are the people the world never saw coming, not because they hid, but because heaven was the only place their true identity was recognized. The elect are not marked by applause, but by assignment, and that assignment begins with a spiritual DNA that can't be mimicked. You can't fake the fragrance of one who has walked through fire and still carries praise on their lips. You can't imitate the weightiness of someone who has wrestled with God in the midnight hour and came out limping with power. These aren't traits you can put on like a garment. These are scars and imprints burned into the soul by divine encounters no one else witnessed. That's why many of the elect go unnoticed, because the signs aren't on their faces, they're in their spirit. They're not always in the spotlight. Sometimes they're in the back room, wiping away tears, praying for others while no one prays for them. They're the ones whose voices tremble when they speak because they're not speaking from ego, they're speaking from obedience. You might be tempted to think they're weak, that they're ordinary, but don't be deceived. There's a lion sleeping inside those who seem small. There's fire behind their eyes, fire not kindled by crowds or recognition, but by time spent in the presence of the consuming one. The subtlety of their markings is intentional. God hides his treasures. He veils his elect in humility so the world won't crown them before the cross does. The danger of premature exposure is real, and heaven protects its own. So sometimes he allows the elect to be misunderstood, misjudged, even rejected, because in that rejection pride dies and purity grows. The elect are often those who carry strange contradictions. They are anointed but attacked, set apart but surrounded by trials, full of love yet constantly broken. It doesn't make sense in the natural, and it's not supposed to, because divine things are spiritually discerned. The signs they carry are hidden because they are holy. And holiness doesn't scream, it whispers. It draws without manipulating. It attracts heaven even when earth turns away. Have you ever felt like you were born for something you can't explain? Like there's a call you hear but can't always trace? That sense of being different, not better, not higher just assigned. That's not your imagination. That's a sign, a subtle marking, a whisper of the eternal etched in your soul. Some of you listening have wondered why your journey seems harder, why the warfare feels personal, why doors close that should have opened. It's because you're not being raised up like everyone else. The elect aren't built in public, they're forged in private. God is working something in you that doesn't require validation. It requires surrender. And surrender never starts with celebration. It starts with the quiet ache of obedience. You see, the elect don't need to announce themselves. Their lives speak. Their prayers thunder through realms unseen. Their love carries healing. Their words shift atmospheres, not because they are perfect, but because they are yielded, because they said yes when others said not now, because they chose the narrow road, the hidden path, the lonely altar. So if you've been wondering whether you're seen, let this be your confirmation. God does not forget who he has marked. Just because people don't recognize the oil doesn't mean it isn't there. Just because the room doesn't call your name doesn't mean heaven hasn't. Sometimes the anointing is so sacred that God himself keeps it hidden until the appointed time. The signs are there, but they are subtle. Divine markings don't glitter, they glow. They don't boast, they bleed, and the ones who carry them, they often don't even know how deeply they've been marked because humility has covered what heaven has written. And that's the beauty of it all. Because when God chooses someone, he doesn't need a stage to prove it. He needs a heart that won't quit, a soul that's been broken enough to carry power without pride, a life that whispers glory even when no one is watching. So don't overlook what doesn't shine. Don't underestimate the ones who sit in silence. They just might be the ones who have touched the throne of God when no one was looking. When God chooses someone, it's almost never who we thought it would be. He bypasses human logic, sidesteps cultural norms, and ignores the expectations of the crowd. The elect, the truly called, appointed, and anointed are rarely the people we would nominate. They don't always look the part. They don't always have the resume. Sometimes they're the last ones we'd pick. But heaven sees what flesh cannot. There's a mystery in divine election, and that mystery often collides with human assumption. Because while we look at the outside credentials, charisma, image God scans the heart, and the ones he chooses are often the ones others dismiss. The shepherd boy in the field, the orphan girl in exile, the stutterer running from his past, the outcast, the rejected, the unqualified. The elect have always carried the fingerprints of grace, not because they were worthy, but because they were willing. This is the upside-down nature of the kingdom. While the world celebrates polish, God celebrates purity. While culture crowns achievement, God anoints surrender. The elect are not chosen based on public opinion. They are chosen in the secret counsel of God long before their names are known, long before their voices are heard, and long before anyone thinks to applaud. So, what does that mean for us? It means we need to learn how to stop judging by appearances. It means we need to tune our spiritual senses to recognize the anointing, not just the performance. Because sometimes the person heaven is raising up doesn't fit the mold. They might not speak with confidence. They might still be in recovery. They might still be healing, still growing, still being stretched. But they've been touched, chosen, marked. This is why many of the elect live misunderstood lives. Because people are measuring them with earthly eyes, never knowing that God has been writing a story with them in invisible ink. There's a holy tension they live in, the tension of knowing they're called, yet not being called upon. The ache of carrying something big inside while looking small on the outside. That's the tension of the elect. It's not glamorous, but it's sacred. We often think being chosen means being celebrated, but more often it means being separated. God hides his elect for a season. He protects them from premature visibility. He shapes them in silence, prunes them in obscurity, and strengthens them through rejection. Why? Because he's preparing them for a purpose that won't be sustained by applause, it will be sustained by fire. And only those who have been through the fire will be able to carry what others can't even touch. Think about the ones we now revere as giants of faith. Many of them were misunderstood in their own generation. They were mocked, disregarded, even betrayed, but God was with them, and that's the only approval that truly matters. The elect don't need popularity, they need presence. They don't chase platforms, they chase the face of God. And because of that, they carry something the world can't replicate. You can't always spot the elect by the way they dress, or the circles they run in, or the way they speak. Sometimes they're hidden in plain sight, moving in gentleness, speaking with humility, serving in silence. But if you listen closely, you'll sense it, the oil, the weight, the authority that doesn't come from education or personality, but from encounter. You'll feel it even if you can't explain it. That's because the elect move in something deeper than gifting. They move in intimacy. Don't let appearances fool you. Just because someone's name is known doesn't mean they're heaven's choice. And just because someone's name is unknown doesn't mean they haven't been chosen. Divine election is not a democratic process. It is a sovereign act. God calls whom he wills, when he wills, how he wills. And when he puts his hand on someone, there's no man, no system, no demon in hell that can all what God has called. If you feel overlooked, take heart. The elect often are. If you feel unqualified, take hope. The elect usually do. But God is not looking for those who are the most impressive. He's looking for those who are the most surrendered. He's not moved by the stage. He's drawn to the altar. So while others are running to be seen, the elect are learning to be still. While others are networking for opportunities, the elect are wrestling for presence. Because they know that what they carry didn't come cheap, and it wasn't man who gave it, so it won't be man who sustains it. In the end, God's choices are always right, even when they're not obvious. The elect don't walk around with signs on their foreheads, but they walk with heaven's endorsement, and when the time is right, when the preparation is complete, when the weight of glory is settled on their shoulders, they will rise. Not to impress, but to fulfill, not to perform, but to pour out, not for fame, but for purpose. So the next time you find yourself judging who looks chosen, stop and ask the Spirit, because the elect are not always the expected. But they are always God's, and that is more than enough. There is something sacred about being chosen by God. Something beautiful, something profound, something heavy. The word chosen often sounds like a celebration, but few understand the cost that comes with it. To be chosen is to be trusted. To be chosen is to be set apart, and to be chosen is to be tested. The elect don't just carry favor, they carry weight, and that weight isn't always visible to the outside world, but to the soul bearing it, it is undeniable. When heaven places its hand on a life, it doesn't just bring blessings. It brings responsibility, the kind that can't be shrugged off or ignored. It's not the weight of performance, but the weight of presence. The kind of weight that keeps you up at night, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because you know that something eternal has been entrusted to you, and that trust demands a different kind of walk, a different kind of obedience, a different kind of surrender. To be chosen is to live with a quiet burden. It's not a burden of burnout or exhaustion. It's deeper than that. It's the burden of knowing that your life is not your own, that your steps are being ordered, that your journey is not casual. There's a divine intentionality behind every detour, every delay, every closed door. The elect don't get to live like everyone else. They are not free to compromise in the same ways. They are not permitted to wander without consequence, because their lives are not ordinary. Their lives are assignments. That assignment often comes with loneliness, with isolation, with misunderstanding. There's a cost to being set apart, and part of that cost is being misread by people who haven't seen what you've seen. You can try to explain it, but words fall short. Because how do you describe the weight of glory on your shoulders? How do you express the fear of missing something sacred? The trembling that comes when you realize heaven is watching how you handle what you've been given. Many people want the title of called, but they don't want the tension that comes with it, because there is a tension. The tension between the greatness you feel inside and the wilderness you're walking through. The tension between the anointing you carry and the resistance you face. The tension between the promise you heard and the silence you're living in. But this is the weight. This is the proving ground. This is where the chosen are forged, not on stages but in secret. And yet, for all its difficulty, there is also joy in the weight, because with the weight comes closeness, intimacy, dependency. The elect don't just know about God, they know Him. Because they've had to lean on Him when no one else understood. They've had to trust Him when everything around them said to quit. They've had to worship with tears in their eyes and unanswered prayers in their hearts. That kind of walk produces depth, and that depth becomes oil. You see, the weight produces oil, and the oil is what breaks yokes, not talent. The oil is what heals hearts, not eloquence. The oil is what shifts atmospheres, not experience. The elect carry oil, not because they're special, but because they've paid a price. And that price is not just in the public yes, but in the private surrender, in the moments when no one is watching. In the battles no one ever sees, so don't envy the elect. Don't romanticize what it means to be chosen. The crown comes with a cross. The glory comes after the crushing, and the platform, if it ever comes, is only the overflow of a hidden life laid bare before God. What many see as favor is actually the fruit of fire. And the fire is not just to refine, it's to prepare. Because to carry what heaven gives, you must be strong enough in spirit to not collapse under the pressure. That's the weight, the silent pressure of purpose, the holy heaviness of being used by God. It keeps you humble, it keeps you hungry, it keeps you on your knees, because you know, without Him it all falls apart. Without His breath, your words are empty. Without His presence, your efforts are hollow. The elect never forget who gave them what they carry, and that reverence is what sustains them. If you've been feeling the weight, don't run from it. Let it shape you. Let it soften you. Let it bring you deeper into the secret place, because what feels like pressure is actually preparation. What feels like heaviness is actually heaven pressing its hand on your life. And when God presses, it's not to crush, it's to mold, to transform, to ready you for what's ahead. You are not called to comfort, you are called to carry, and though the weight is real, the grace is greater. You are not bearing this alone. The one who chose you will also sustain you, and in your weakest moments he will remind you, "My strength is made perfect in your weakness." So take heart, chosen one. The wait is not a punishment, it's a sign. A sign that you've been trusted with something eternal, and that trust is heaven's whisper. "I've set you apart for myself." The signs that mark the elect are not random. They are not superficial traits or behavioral patterns that can be picked up through imitation or borrowed through association. These signs are not the result of religious habits or spiritual performance. They are born in the presence of God. They are the visible results of an invisible relationship, deep, personal, and intimate. Every true sign of the elect points back to one place: intimacy with the divine. You cannot fake this kind of nearness. You cannot manufacture the fragrance of one who has sat quietly before the throne. You cannot imitate the authority of one who has heard God's whisper in the stillness and trembled at his voice. The elect carry signs not because they sought signs, but because they sought him, and in the seeking, something changed. Something was deposited. Something sacred began to rest on them that no man could give and no man could take away. There is a difference between being gifted and being intimate. The world can celebrate your gifts, but heaven measures your nearness. And that nearness leaves a mark. You can tell when someone has spent time with God. There's a softness in their spirit, but a weight in their words. There's a peace they carry even when the storm rages around them. There's a fire in their prayer that comes not from shouting louder, but from knowing who they're speaking to. Intimacy is what fuels the life of the elect. They don't move because of pressure or applause. They move because they've heard something. They've seen something. They've touched the heart of God, and now their life is a response to that encounter. They don't need external motivation when they've had internal revelation. The hidden signs they carry, discernment, unshakable faith, purity of heart, divine compassion, spiritual authority, are all the fruit of communion, not performance. This is why the elect are often misunderstood. Because the world is trained to see the external, to applaud the visible, to honor the stage. But intimacy is cultivated in hiddenness. The most powerful things about a person are often the things no one sees. It's what happens when the doors are closed, when the phone is off, when there's no platform to prepare for. It's those quiet moments when the elect cry out in brokenness, wrestle in prayer, lay everything down again, and again, and again. It is in those secret places that heaven deposits signs the world can't comprehend. When you've been with God, you walk differently, not with arrogance, but with awareness. You know who goes with you. You recognize his voice above the noise. You aren't easily swayed by public opinion because your roots go deeper than popularity. You're not shaken by delay because you've been anchored in trust. The signs of the elect are not quick flashes of emotion. They are steady flames that have been lit by the Spirit and fed by devotion. Intimacy brings clarity. It brings a stillness that cuts through chaos. It brings discernment that no training can provide. When you are close to the heart of God, you begin to see like him, love like him, forgive like him. You don't just carry truth, you carry grace. You don't just speak boldly, you move tenderly. You don't just operate in power, you walk in brokenness, because true nearness to God always humbles. It breaks you before it builds you, and what rises from that brokenness is beautiful. It is holy. It is unmistakably marked. Every true sign of the elect is a reflection of proximity. The more time you spend with God, the more His nature shows through you. It's not about striving. It's about abiding. This is not about achieving some spiritual status. It's about remaining in the vine. The fruit grows naturally when the branch stays connected. The elect are fruitful not because they are better, but because they are connected. This is why signs can't be pursued as ends in themselves. You don't chase signs, you chase Him, and in that pursuit, the signs follow. They become byproducts of divine intimacy. A heart that is tuned to the voice of God will begin to speak His words. Hands that have trembled in worship will begin to heal when they touch. Eyes that have wept in His presence begin to see what others miss. It's all from Him. It's all through Him, and it all returns to Him. So if you want to know whether you carry the signs of the elect, don't look at your platform. Don't count your followers. Don't evaluate your influence. Look at your secret place. Look at your hunger. Look at the way your soul reaches for Him when no one is watching. Because that's where the real evidence is. That's where the true markings form. That's where the oil flows, not in the public demonstration, but in the private devotion. Everything begins and ends with intimacy. It is the root, the source, the foundation. Every gift, every calling, every sign, if it's real, it came from being with Him. And the moment you disconnect from that nearness, the signs begin to fade, the clarity begins to blur, the power begins to weaken. Because the signs are not trophies, they are reflections. They reveal who you've been with, and when you've been with God, truly been with Him, the world doesn't need to be convinced. They'll know. The elect are not known by how loudly they speak, how much power they demonstrate, or how many people follow them. They are known by what they produce, the fruit of their lives. Heaven does not measure greatness by influence, but by impact. The true markers of one who has been chosen by God are not public miracles or prophetic declarations. They are deeper, quieter, and far more telling. Love, peace, joy, patience, kindness, faithfulness, self-control. These are not just moral virtues. They are spiritual fruit evidence that the divine life is flowing through someone. It's easy to confuse charisma with calling. It's easy to mistake gifting for spiritual maturity. But God never said, "By their gifts you will know them." He said, "By their fruit." That's the difference. Gifts can be given in a moment, but fruit takes time to grow. Gifts can be impressive on a platform, but fruit is tested in the hidden places, in the way someone loves those who cannot repay them, forgives those who hurt them, or serves when no one's looking. The elect carry weight not because of how loud they are in the room, but because of how deep their roots go when no one is watching. Power can be abused. Power can be performed. Power can even be counterfeited. But fruit can't lie. You can't fake fruit. You can't manufacture long-term consistency in things like gentleness, humility, or sacrificial love. You either have it because you've been with God, or you don't. And the truth is, power without fruit is dangerous. It's unstable. It draws attention to self, but fails to reflect Christ. But fruit, real fruit, points to the one who cultivates it. It says, "This isn't about me. This is the evidence that I've been abiding in Him." Being chosen doesn't mean you'll be the most popular. It doesn't guarantee that doors will swing open or crowds will cheer. Sometimes the most fruitful seasons happen in the least visible places. The elect don't measure success by applause. They measure it by alignment. They don't chase platforms. they cultivate presence, and in that secret life with God, they begin to bear fruit that remains, not temporary influence, but eternal impact, not quick results, but long-term transformation. Some of the most powerful people in the kingdom don't have microphones in their hands. They have prayer on their lips and compassion in their hearts. Their names may never trend, but their lives shake the unseen realm. Their consistency, their endurance, their peace in the storm, those are fruits of a life rooted in God. They aren't chasing spiritual hype. They're cultivating holy habits. They aren't looking to impress. They're looking to obey. And obedience always leads to fruit. If you want to know whether someone is truly walking in divine calling, don't ask how big their ministry is. Ask how they treat their spouse. Ask if they are generous in private. Ask if they still serve when no one thanks them. The elect aren't just vessels of power. They're carriers of character. And character is formed in the soil of intimacy, watered by obedience, and matured through trial. Power may get you noticed, but fruit will make you trusted. This is where many get it wrong. They think being chosen means being celebrated, but sometimes being chosen means being pruned, being corrected, being refined. God doesn't just want fruit. He wants much fruit. And to get much fruit, there must be much cutting, much surrender. That's the price. The elect know what it means to be pruned by the Father, not because he's angry, but because he's preparing them for more. The cutting is a compliment. It's a sign of trust. It means there's more on the inside that needs room to grow. The elect are not in a hurry. They don't rush the process. They don't despise small beginnings, because they know that real fruit takes time, and when it finally appears, it doesn't need to announce itself. It speaks for itself. People will be drawn to it, not because it's flashy, but because it's real. In a world full of noise, real fruit whispers with quiet authority, "This came from God." You might not see results overnight. You might not see break through every time you pray, but if your roots are deep, the fruit will come. And when it does, it won't just bless you. It will feed others. That's the mark of the elect. Their lives nourish. Their words give life. Their presence brings peace. They carry something that makes people hunger for more of God, not more of them. Because they've learned that being chosen is not about building their own kingdom. It's about revealing His. So no, being elect isn't about having power. It's about bearing fruit, lasting fruit, eternal fruit. And the only way to bear that kind of fruit is to stay connected to the vine. That's the secret. That's the source. Everything you need, every sign, every strength, every step is found in Him. Stay rooted and the fruit will come. And when it does, the world will know not just that you are chosen, but that you belong to Him. There's a profound truth that often gets lost in a world obsessed with self-expression, personal platforms, and building influence. The elect are not chosen for themselves. They are chosen for others. The hand of God doesn't rest on a person just to elevate them. It rests on them to pour through them. Every anointing, every calling, every encounter. It all has purpose beyond the individual. The elect are carriers, not containers. They are conduits, not collectors. What they receive from heaven is not meant to stay with them. It is meant to flow through them. This is one of the deepest revelations the elect must come to. It's not about you. It was never about you. God chose you because He could trust you to serve, to carry, to love, to intercede, to pour, to stretch, to give. not for personal comfort, not for acclaim, but because there are people connected to your obedience. People who will never see God unless they see Him in you. People who will never feel loved unless they feel it through your hands. People who will never break free unless you stay on the wall and pray, war, and endure. Being elect is not a reward. It is a responsibility. It comes with weight, yes, but also with assignment. You are not just called to shine. You are called to illuminate the path for others. You are not just gifted to speak. You are called to heal, restore, reconcile. You are not just placed in rooms to be seen. You are placed there to shift atmospheres, to sow peace, to carry light into darkness. The calling of the elect is always others, focused, always kingdom-driven, always rooted in love. The elect understand that their lives are seed. Their tears are intercession. Their stories are blueprints. Their trials become testimonies that feed the faith of those coming behind them. What they go through is not just for their own refining. It is so they can speak with authority into someone else's breakthrough. The healing they've received isn't just for personal comfort. It's so they can be the healing voice in someone else's darkest night. They live with an awareness, I am carrying something for someone else. You begin to walk differently when you realize your choices don't just affect you. You begin to speak more intentionally, pray more deeply, love more sacrificially, because you recognize there's someone connected to my yes. The elect know that obedience is not optional, not because they fear punishment, but because they carry people in their spirit. Sometimes they don't even know who yet. They just know God is up to something, and I must be faithful, because there's a generation waiting on the other side of my faithfulness. That's what makes the elect so peculiar. They're not motivated by ego or ambition. They're moved by burden. They don't show up just to be seen. They show up to pour out. They don't cry out just for themselves. They cry out for cities, for families, for nations. There's a holy urgency in them, a sacred ache. They've seen too much to live shallow. They've heard too clearly to walk away, and even when they're tired, even when they're wounded, they still show up. Because the oil isn't for them, it's for those who are thirsty. This is why the elect often experience great crushing. Because to serve at that level, they must be emptied of self. Their dreams, their pride, their personal expectations, all must bow. And out of that emptying comes a fragrance, a power, a depth that can only be birthed in surrender. They become safe places for the broken. They become resting places for the weary. They become living proof that God still moves through yielded vessels. Don't be fooled by the quiet ones, the ones who aren't flashy, the ones who go unseen. Many of them are carrying the heaviest assignments. They are the hidden pillars holding up families, the nameless intercessors standing in the gap for communities, the broken, hearted worshippers pouring out everything they have so heaven can move in a room. They are not trying to be known. They are trying to be faithful, because they understand being chosen is not about being impressive. It's about being available. God is not looking for perfect vessels. He's looking for willing ones. The elect are those who said yes and keep saying yes, even when it costs, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, and in their yes, people are healed, lives are changed. Generations are shifted, all because they understood, this is not about me. I was chosen for others, and isn't that just like Jesus, the ultimate elect one? He came not to be served, but to serve, not to take, but to give. Not to save himself, but to lay himself down so that others could live. If we are truly chosen by him, we will look like him. We will love like him. We will pour like him. And we will remember Every gift, every breakthrough, every moment of divine favor, it's not for us to keep. It's for the ones we're called to reach. So, to the elect, stay faithful, stay broken, stay poured out, because what you carry is not just precious, it's necessary, and someone's freedom is tied to your obedience. The signs that mark the elect were never meant for human recognition. They were never designed to dazzle the crowds or attract applause. They aren't signs for the stage, they're signals for the heavens. The deepest markers of those God has chosen are not always visible to the world, but they are unmistakable before the throne. Heaven sees what man overlooks. Heaven values what man forgets. And when God marks someone as his own, it is not for performance. It is for purpose. So many live in pursuit of being seen. They want to be known, celebrated, affirmed. They chase visibility, thinking it proves their worth, but the elect know better. The elect don't need the world's applause when they have heaven's approval. They don't need men to notice what only God can measure. Their confidence isn't in visibility, it's in alignment. They don't live to impress, they live to obey, and in that obedience, something holy is built in silence. There is a kind of life that speaks loudly in heaven, even if it whispers on earth. It's the life of hidden surrender, of private sacrifice, of quiet faithfulness when no one is watching. It's the kind of life that stays in prayer when no one says thank you, that serves in secret places when the crowd has moved on, that holds on to purity and truth when compromise would be easier. These are the signs the world often misses. But God doesn't. The signs of the elect are not loud. They are lasting. They don't always look impressive, but they carry eternal weight. The way someone forgives without needing an apology. The way they keep their hearts soft in a hard world. The way they carry burdens no one sees and still choose to bless others. These are not showy things, but they are sacred things, and heaven records them all. Not a tear is wasted. Not a prayer is unheard. Not a sacrifice is unseen. The eyes of the Lord roam to and fro, not looking for celebrities, but for surrendered hearts. The elect live with a different awareness. They understand that God sees in the dark, that their hidden moments of devotion echo in eternity. They know that heaven watches the unseen battle, the one between pride and humility, fear and faith, comfort and calling. And when they choose him in the quiet, heaven rejoices. Angels move, the spirit strengthens, because a private yes is louder than a public performance in the courts of heaven. Sometimes the most spiritual moment in someone's day isn't on a stage. It's when they choose to love again after being betrayed. When they choose to stay when walking away would be easier. When they worship even with a broken heart. These moments may go unnoticed by people, but they are highlighted in heaven, because the signs of the elect are not measured in volume, but in purity. Not in power, but in posture, not in fame, but in faith. This is why the elect often walk through seasons of hiddenness. God pulls them away not to punish them, but to purify them. He quiets the noise around them so they can hear his voice clearly. He strips away distractions so they can become familiar with his presence. And in that sacred silence, the signs begin to take shape. Patience, depth, discernment, unshakable peace. They aren't built in the spotlight. They are born in the secret place. When the world can't see you, don't assume heaven isn't watching. When the people forget your name, don't assume God has. The elect are never forgotten. Their faith is not wasted. Their prayers are not in vain. They may walk quietly, but they walk with power. They may go unnoticed by the world, but they are celebrated in heaven, because God knows what he put inside of them, and he sees every time they choose him over convenience. The signs aren't about validation. They're about transformation. They show up when the heart shifts, when the mind renews, when the soul aligns with the spirit. And though the world may never clap, the heavens respond. The Father smiles, the Spirit bears witness, and the kingdom advances not through show, but through surrender. If you've ever felt like your obedience was overlooked, like your faithfulness was forgotten, like your devotion didn't matter, remember this: heaven saw it. Heaven sees you, and that's where the signs matter most. The applause of men is fleeting, but the approval of God is eternal. You weren't chosen to be liked. You were chosen to be faithful, and faithfulness always leaves a mark in heaven, if not on earth. So walk boldly, even in obscurity. Love deeply, even when it costs. Obey consistently, even when no one else understands, because the one who called you sees every step. The one who chose you is keeping record. And the signs that you carry, though hidden from the world, are glowing in the spirit realm. You don't need a crowd to confirm what heaven already declared. You belong to him, and he never misses a sign.